What's up, everybody? Welcome to TeslaFix. Today we have a kind of serious topic because Giga Berlin actually was attacked by left extremist groups that are kind of against capitalism. They are called the Volcano Group. They attacked actually the electrical infrastructure in Grünheide, which is also connected to the Gigafactory. They did an arson attack. And to talk about this topic, of course, because this happened in Germany, I have to bring a fellow German on to talk about this topic.
Welcome to TeslaFix. Make sure to subscribe and like this episode.
Alex Voigt is here again. I'm happy that you are here, Alex, of course, because you're very connected in the Tesla community as well, and you track and monitor the company very long. You are also invested in the company. Maybe you can tell my audience a little bit what's your background for those who don't know you and why I interview you now for this topic, and then we can just, go into detail there. What happened?
Okay. So first of all, Jan, thanks for having me and great to be back. Always a pleasure to discuss with you Tesla and everything of German automakers. So very shortly, I'm invested in Tesla since 2014. I've been starting to investigate the company in 2012. So I have a long history with Tesla, following up what's going on day by day, which has led me to also look deeply into the German automakers and then internationally. And then, I started to exchange my ideas and thoughts. I've been asked to write articles, which I did, yada, yada, yada. So here we are. So later on, I subscribed for X. At that time, it still was Twitter. And I have about 120,000 followers, I believe. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, people are reading what I'm writing. So, but that's a lot of fun and I enjoy that. And great to be here. And let's just jump into it.
Yeah. So everybody check out Alex. I'm going to link his channel, of course, as well, his X channel. He's also on YouTube, but not as active as on X. And I would recommend highly to check it out. Also, his Patreon is pretty cool. So just a small commercial block here, because I think your output is pretty great and interesting, because you're also a source of my tweets from time to time, also of my content. I try to piece everything together, and you're also a source for that. But now let's look at what's happening, because many Americans, of course, thought, what the hell is going on with Germany? We had those protesters. Maybe we start with this, and then we kind of dive into those, Are they with the eco-protesters? Some people have conspiracy theories that they say, it's legacy auto that pays them and stuff like this. So I think it's important to clear things up here, to kind of give the people a little bit a German perspective on this topic, because living in Germany, we kind of know those leftist groups. That's not the first thing they already did. Before that, even other leftist groups, for example, also remove air or let out air out of tires of luxury cars, for example. Stuff like this happens a lot from time to time. Or also the G20 summit that we had in Hamburg was also very, let's say, fiery, because they also lit cars up there, but not this group, but in general. But maybe you can talk a little bit about maybe the backlash that Giga Grünheide has and why they target Tesla now with those kinds of attacks, or also the protests, the sentiment. Why are they against Tesla and Gigafactory Grünheide? That would be very interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's a longer story to unfold, and I don't want to repeat everything that has been said since the arson attack happened, the latest one, I have to say, because as you indicated, it's not just one from that group, actually. And so for everybody who's jumping in here and has no clue what we are discussing here, I have a longer article pinned to my profile on X. Everybody can review that. I just summarize what we know so far and what happened, so that's probably helpful, so that we don't have to repeat the stuff most people already know. So you are asking what this group is about or what's their intention, and that's probably a question everybody's asking. And you talked about the US citizens probably have been shocked about hearing what's going on here in Germany. And I have to say, Germans are shocked as well. So we are shocked, because what's happening is totally crazy. why are Germans shocked? Because Germany has a long history of left-wing terrorists. Actually, even before your time, Jan, I'm a little bit older than you, might say.
But I know history. I know what you're referring to. Yeah.
So we had a terrorist group here in the 70s, 80s that tried to. Actually, they started with a lot of Nazis are still in, or former Nazis are still in high political and economy positions in Germany. And why is that the case? So Germany never really worked through all the issues with the Nazis, and we can't stand that, and yada, yada, yada. That was in the 70s. And from that movement, a group split that started to radicalize themselves. And they started with bomb attacks, and later on they've been hijacking and killing politicians and people from the industry. So that was a bad story. So Germany has a long history of fighting against it. We had a tough time here in Germany because there was a threat. I've been growing up, and some people may remember that. I've been growing up with going to a post office where you find these big posters with a lot of strange pictures of the people that are still searched for. And this was for decades. And just, I think a week or two ago, there was one member of that group, the so-called third generation, caught in Berlin. So we are still dealing with that, actually. So it's strange. So what I'm trying to say here is there's experience with left-wing terrorist groups. And from all what we know from Volcano Group, and that's not a lot, it must be said it's a terrorist group. I wouldn't say they are just left-wing radicalized people who are just misguided, because what they've done before is setting Tesla vehicles in Berlin on fire, for instance, or in other places, which is bad enough, but at least... And
also targeting superchargers as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you can
also in Frankfurt they burned, or I don't know if this was Volcano Group, but 20 Teslas were set on fire there as well. So we had that already there.
It's likely. It's likely. They've been also asking other groups to do the same. So there may be other people involved in it. But if you set a car on fire or a supercharger, bad enough. But at least you can control that nobody's sitting in there, and that the fire is not harming people. What they've done now in Grünheide or nearby Grünheide, attacking the infrastructure of electricity, which actually not only impacted Tesla and Giga Berlin, but also a large distribution center of one of the largest retailers in the world, Edeka. And they also shut down all the lights in, I think it's 5 or 6, if not 7, different villages and hospitals too. So what I'm trying to say here is this is life-threatening for a lot of people, what they've been doing. And we can be extremely lucky that there was nobody harmed and no person was killed throughout that event. I've been kind of growing up in production. And if you ever have seen automotive production in full swing, and you imagine that from one second to the other, it's stopping. There is a lot of things that can go bad, and that nothing happened in Giga Berlin. I congratulate the guys who've been responsible for the safety regulation and for the safety systems, because they all work very well. So that's fantastic. But it's a lucky punch, and so long story short, for me, Volcano Group is without any doubt a terrorist group from what they've done. And the latest information we have is that the DA from Brandenburg is going after them now as almost a terrorist group. So the definition is not finalized, but it goes in that direction very much. And there are a lot of calls from politicians who are asking for the federal attorney to go after, which would give them more leverage and more possibilities in terms to court them. And I believe just the magnitude of what they are doing and what was written in their confession letter tells us a lot about their intention. And if they are not stopped and caught and prosecuted and put in prison, we can expect more of the things are going to happen. So sorry for the long introduction here about that.
Yeah, but I think it's important to kind of talk about this for people that also don't know why the higher instances are called now. Of course, because the police work, if it's regional, it's way more difficult. It's almost like on the federal level in the US that you have the federal federal police that they are looking into this more, and they have way more leverage and can connect all the police departments around the.
It's a little bit like
Germany,
you have a local DA in a city going after that matter, or if you have the FBI going after. So this is kind of comparable. Yeah. It's a different level. FBI can really do a lot more than local police authorities, and the same is true for Germany. If we look back, and you said it, there have been other arson attacks from this group. We might ask ourselves why they haven't been stopped before. And probably it's just because there was only financial damage, burned out cars and some headlines. Actually, I've been writing about it in one of my Patreon newsletters. And there was already at that point in time when they've been doing this arson attack at the IAA, at the German Auto Exhibition in September, there was already such a letter out there. And it's similar to that, what I've heard about the new one. I mean, they're actually saying like Tesla is not a green company, socially not acceptable, and, shouldn't exist, and we need to stop them. And it's not eco. I mean, it's not good for the environment. And so very stupid, dumb statements. Because, I mean, think about it. You set something on fire, consequences can be severe for people, but obviously these guys or these girls, we don't know, they don't inform themselves in a proper way about the basics, whom they are attacking. I mean, let's compare Tesla to the German automotive industry. I mean, ICE vehicles are polluting. They are wasting way more water. In terms of social responsibility, you may ask yourself why VW is still having a factory in the Uyghur area in China, which is attacked from a lot of groups because there's been proven cases that at least the suppliers have forced labor. Look for something like that within Tesla. Doesn't exist. At least I don't know about it. It's totally nuts to go after Tesla, which has been setting a new standard, and now puts this together with Giga Berlin, which now has more than 12,000 employees, while all German automakers are reducing their employees. Just today, there was Porsche announcing that they are reducing temporary workers again. And, Germany is in a difficult situation in terms of the automotive industry. And this group attacks the company, which is doing, as far as we do, almost everything right. You can argue they don't communicate well, which I would agree to. And there are other points I would argue Tesla can make better. But what is written, the confession letter, I really laugh about it because it's so dumb, stupid, and makes no sense. And we don't know who is behind that group. We know that the authorities are watching that group since a longer time, which can mean a lot. I mean, it's like the CIA telling you what they do abroad. You don't know. And the same is here with the authorities investigating that group. It's supposed to be a very small group, which tells me that they know much more than they tell us. Because if they know it's a small group, somehow they have contact. They assume they are in Berlin, which I believe makes sense because most of the attacks have been not far away from Berlin or even in Berlin. And that's kind of it. So, I mean, I've been asked today about whether this has anything to do with the German automotive industry. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's, the German OEMs are after that. They've been setting Giga Berlin on fire, which is wrong on all levels. I've been tweeting about that. I don't think there's any connection. There's no motive. There's no interest. The German automotive managers are, they have they talk about Tesla in high regards, and they believe that this is kind of mind-boggling what Tesla has achieved. And there's absolutely no interest on their side for such an attack. Actually, it puts them all under pressure too. So why should they do that? You never know. One crazy person that in its lifetime worked for an automotive OEM now is somehow ending up in that group. That may be the case. I don't know. But I wouldn't understand any interest and any reason why they are involved here. I don't see that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I also think that's one thing. People tend to jump to their own conclusions very fast. Also on X, also from the American side, I kind of feel that sometimes they just add up 1 + 1 and this equals that. I think that, they must be paid by the legacy car companies. Does it benefit the car companies that Tesla is down? Yes. Do they pay a leftist, a terrorist group? I wouldn't say so, because if something like this would come out, then they are totally screwed. And they already had their scandals, for example, VW. I don't assume that they are even want to lean out of the window slightly even. So I also assume that that's not the case. Also, the experience here tells me that it wouldn't make any sense, because I also, in the media and everywhere, also what you kind of witness sometimes, there are those kinds of groups. There are some radical people on the left, on the right as well. But it's interesting to see, that they radicalize so much, and but this is totally logical in that sense for me, that this will develop that way, because those people have the mindset that they're very anti-capitalist, and they don't actually I wouldn't even say that they target Tesla. I mean, their letter, of course, they target Tesla, but it's all about, I think, Elon Musk, or for what he stands for. He's like a huge capitalist who has a very strong voice. Now he's a very conservative voice, and that's like a thorn in their eye. That's a German saying. I think that doesn't translate well into English, but needless to say, what do you think about this? That they target Tesla, or because the letter didn't make sense. Actually, it was super.
It doesn't make sense, and it's
read.
not the first letter that doesn't make sense. So it's
yeah.
So a friend of mine said to me yesterday, with the terrorist groups that we had in the 70s, which was called a RAF, they at least had an objective. So this tells you everything. That's because true. The Volcano Group, that's not an objective what they've been. I mean, if they are going after that, what they've been written down, they should go after all legacy automakers first.
Yes.
And Tesla should be last. So it makes no sense. And what I've learned from leftist radical groups is that they're usually not totally stupid. But this group is really creating a lot of questions. And again, if you put something on fire, you think first, usually, I mean, people don't think a lot, but at least you have a good argumentation why you think this is the right thing to do, which it isn't. This is stupid. But I think there's something else that is telling us. Jan, since Tesla is in Germany and even before, you have this atmosphere of, they are bad, they are wasting a lot of water, which is not true. They are cutting all the old forest down, which is also not true. It's not good.
The forest wasn't even there before. The forest was for paper production. Actually, and it is mined with. It had Second World War mines everywhere. It wasn't even. It's not even a natural forest. That's
exactly. So it's a very so stupid, poor plantation with not a lot of diversity. So and they cut them anyhow. So I could go on here. What I'm trying to say is, we had an atmosphere in Germany against Tesla that the media was, piggybacking on and making a lot of dollars and euros with, by putting a lot of lies out about Tesla, which has led me at least to try to correct a few of those. And this atmosphere has also created this kind of protest groups in Grünheide, and now this Robin Hood group that is occupying a part of this pine plantation, which is ridiculous. because it doesn't make any sense, because they claim that the extension of the factory is not a good thing. And the same with this poll that resulted in a large majority of the citizens in Greenheide decided against the expansion of Giga Berlin. It's in the current planned form. This is not a binding vote, but if you put all of that together, and all the conversations you had, Jan, and I had with a lot of people in Germany were full of, shit, and not knowing what they're talking about in terms of Tesla. And we don't have authorities who are really saying this is nonsense. We don't have media who is really correcting this nonsense. Over the years, you certainly have all of a sudden people who radicalize because nobody is telling them that this doesn't make any sense. And I believe there's a small group of these people that came together somehow and decided to do something really very stupid. And I believe they will rest in prison sooner or later, because authorities in Germany are somehow slow, but, they find the people. And it takes time, but they will find them. And I'm pretty sure they will find them too. So that is that. But there's also another thing that I'd like to say. I was wondering about the motives, because again, this confession letters do not make any sense. And I wouldn't be surprised, and this is not a wild conspiracy theory, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some Russian FSB agents infiltrating that group and directing them into Giga Berlin and Tesla specifically. I would find a lot of reasons why they want that, because there are attacks on Germany based on the war in Ukraine all the time. We have assassinations. We have attacks on the infrastructure, on the energy infrastructure, on the communication infrastructure all the time. There's just a small part that is really communicated through the media, but there's a lot happening, and there's proof that this is triggered from Russia. So I would say there's a high likelihood, or at least a possibility, that Russian FSB agents are steering this group in a certain direction without the member of that group probably even knowing that, so they infiltrated them. That's the theory. I may be completely wrong here. I have nothing to back this up. It's just a speculation. But I see all the fingerprints of Russia on this case.
Okay. Yeah, interesting angle there. I would also have to look into this a little bit, but yeah, for me, I think just the radical group itself is already enough, I think, for me, like to realize why they should have a motive, or kind of, I think it makes sense for them in their worldview to do this. But this is also an angle that's interesting that you could argue. Interesting. And also, but I think it should have been then a bigger part of the infrastructure than if it's really targeted against the infrastructure.
Giga Berlin and Tesla is one of the often discussed items in the German media. So it will be all over the media. Russia is interested to divide the society in Germany big time, which they can achieve here, right? So they try to smear Germany and their stability internationally. Again, that works very well. We have left-wing terrorist groups, and as a company, you should think twice whether you want to build your factory in Germany. There's so many motives from Russia to do something like that, and then cover up under a left-wing group is a nice thing for them, because, they are not in the limelight. It's not like, if let's assume there would be a big attack on the infrastructure in Germany all of a sudden, everybody would say likely Russia. But now we have this group, which was active before, nobody associated with Russia, and it's achieving most of that what Russia FSB wants to achieve in Germany. So again, I don't want to make a big story out of that. It's just my thought process. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Again, I have no proof whatsoever, but I find it very suspicious.
Okay, yeah. But interesting angle, actually. That's something I haven't thought about there. But maybe now talking about maybe talk about the region actually, because in Grünheide they claim that the water, wastewater is a problem. Tesla itself, the car industry isn't sustainable. The claims that this nonsensical claims the group put out, for example, that the way the cars produce isn't actually green. It's like green on the surface, but in reality, it's totally bad practices. And if there's a standstill, then it's a good thing for the environment and everything. And of course, burning electrical outlets on or infrastructure, that's okay all of a sudden. For me, it really doesn't make sense. But looking into this now, what do you think, why this is also that the people are protesting? Because maybe you can talk about what else is in Grünheide that might be even a bigger target or a way more interesting target if you are when environment is actually important to you. What would be another target? I'm referring here to a very big one, actually, that is also taking a lot of water, but maybe for the audience to tell you them.
You probably talk about the lignite mines, I guess, which is consuming more than 100 times the water Tesla is consuming. And if we talk about water, I think I mentioned before, Tesla is using way less than the average automotive industry in terms of producing vehicles. Wastewater is actually recycled 100%. So there was an interesting interview with the head of Giga Berlin, Andre Thierig, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And he made some good comments about it and confirmed that all the wastewater is recycled already. And for the expansion, I mean, let's think about it. Expanding from 500,000 vehicles per year to 1 million, not a single drop of additional water is needed. That is just mind blowing. Think about it. It's incredible. So he was asked by the interviewers, well, what are you using the water for? I mean, what is the water used for? I mean, who is consuming your water in the factory, in an automotive factory? And he said, well, it's mainly the people, you know. You need to go to a toilet, you need to drink sometimes. If you think about that, and then this group's accusing the people in Giga Berlin using too much water is kind of saying, hey, stop drinking, you know, stop drinking water. It's not good for the environment. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But to be fair, of course, you have also water consumption to clean the paint shop and here and there. But overall, I mean, to cool some machinery and you name it. But again, I mean, the most important point is that Tesla has been setting standards in terms of ecological production, that other automotive companies have a very hard time to come to that level. And there is, and you said the lignite mines in Brandenburg are water consumers like crazy. Actually, they are reducing the ground levels in order to be able to mine the lignite, which is on the surface. So, and that water is not kind of stored and put back again into the ground. No. They put this water in rivers which go directly into the Baltic Sea. So the water is lost. The groundwater level is going down like crazy. And obviously that is impacting the entire region. If you have this, and this is just one mine who has 100 times that what Tesla is consuming, and there are a few mines out there. So groundwater level is going down, which is obviously impacting all of Brandenburg and also Grünheide. And now Tesla is coming. Everybody is saying Tesla has a problem.
It's at fault. Yeah. So that's so ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
It makes no sense. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean that's so crazy. I think Tesla is a net positive also for the region. I mean, more taxes, more infrastructure, also for the people living there. I mean, if you bought a house in Grünheide to settle there, maybe your value of your of the piece of land you own is there. Of course, rents might go up, but also houses are built, regions expand, so the region is growing. And if water is a concern to you right to the lignite producer there, brown coal they are harvesting there. I mean, it's ridiculous. The one is a green company, and the other one uses 100 times more water to, like you said, get to the lignite or the brown coal, and it's not comparable. But
well, if you think about it,
it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's also that the expansion is a problem for them all the time. I don't get it. If you compare it to that big mammoth of the industry, maybe their own families maybe worked for this big lignite company or something, that they have a kind of connection to that. I don't get it. I don't know.
Grünheide, not really. I mean, most people I know of, I mean, I don't know the people in Grünheide, but what I know is that most people have been kind of traveling to Berlin for working there, which is actually now much easier because Tesla is owning the train track and it's free of use. So it's much better, more frequent connection. The tax income for Grünheide, and Grünheide has 9,000 citizens, as far as I know, and every baby is counted, so it's all people. So it's maybe 4,000 something households, I would guess. So they had income of 6 million last year from Tesla, and this will go up to 36 million. So there's, as you said, a lot of infrastructure builds. It's fantastic. I mean, this community is really blooming, and there's just only positives. And one German politician was kind of summarizing the situation quite nicely, kind of saying, you know, it's like people just want more salary, more money, more eco, nothing should change. And this is so ridiculous to believe that you can accomplish something like that without any industry settlement. It just doesn't make sense. And in Germany, we have the saying of wash me, but don't make me wet, which doesn't exist in the US, which is kind of a picture of a person want to be dealt with and have all the positives, but, just make sure you just don't bother me at all with anything. Everything needs to remain like it is. While remaining like it is not always a positive thing. It often is negative. And so in the US, there is this picture of Germany is very negative against Tesla, but this is just because the media is amplifying that. Just lately was again a report about Porsche, who is is cutting 200 square kilometers of forest in Italy, where they have a test track, and they want to expand their test track. And there's a lot of demonstrations in Germany now, in Zuffenhausen about that, as well as in Italy. So it's not like Tesla is the only one. There's a lot of demonstrations in Germany. There's a very strange attitude in Germany against change, which is just amplified by the media that this is all about Tesla, and that's not the truth. Yeah, exactly. So this is a picture from this pretty old
enormous track.
Yeah, it's a racetrack. That's why it's round. And now they'd like to expand it into a test track for battery electric vehicles. And they also would like to test autonomous vehicle technology there. Therefore, they need a lot of winding roads and other just not like round. I mean, this looks like CERN, right? Like a particle accelerator. It's not that. And the picture is quite good because you see the Middle Sea here. You see the water, salt water, and the ground is pretty much soaked by that water. So we are talking about a few thousand old stone oaks that Porsche wants to cut down within that ring. And you can see that the ring has space where there is no forest, there are fields. So they could do it somewhere else, but they don't want to. And they also could do it outside. And the point is, Porsche is saying, well, for every tree that we are cutting, we are, planting 3 new ones. But tests have shown that only 10% of the trees that you try to grow outside are really flourishing. 90% are going down because the groundwater is really inflected by the seawater, the salt sea. Therefore, it's hard to grow new trees. It's not so easy. And these oak trees are partly a few hundred years old. So compare this to the pine plantation of Tesla in Grünheide. It's ridiculous.
For paper production, yeah.
Yes. And then open the newspaper or Google about it. You hardly find any article in Germany about what Porsche is doing in Italy.
Porsche, yeah.
And you find tons of articles about what Tesla is doing in Grünheide. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't relate. And this atmosphere and this ill-designed amplification of Tesla is bad is creating, as we see, a terrorist group that is doing this thing. And I believe these people belong in prison, period.
Yeah, it's crazy how misguided they are. It's very interesting to see that. And also to be against the expansion for a $25,000 car, people tend to forget that Tesla was the reason why we switched to EVs in the first place, that we are gearing towards, they've accelerated the pace of innovation in EV tech by 15 years, maybe even 10 years. If they weren't there, I think 20 years, nothing would have happened.
Exactly.
Why should German OEMs have an incentive to change to EVs? They don't. But if they have a superior, because they also don't have the expertise or the R&D, the research and development isn't inside of that technology. We have 100-year history of internal combustion engine perfection, and we have all the patents in the internal combustion engine. In some electric engines as well, of course, a lot of technology from Bosch, from Siemens. Of course, we have a lot of knowledge in other fields, but talking about battery production, stuff like this, now we're talking about something else, because that's a totally different game, and we don't have any advantage there as an industry, as the car industry, the German ones. So Tesla is doing that. Tesla is doing that in Germany, and I think that's a net positive, because of course they have to move now. Now they have to move. They are forced to move. If they don't move, they will be obsolete in the future. And that's why it's so important to have this factory also here to deploy those cars directly, because of the costs as well. Cars are expensive. They tend to get more and more expensive. The service is also a huge issue with all those car companies, because there's their margins and stuff like this. But yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, you're exactly right. So we have, I was thinking about it. What would have changed if Tesla wouldn't have been there? Nothing. Yeah. We would have way below 1% battery electric vehicles in the world, which we don't have right now. We have way, way more. And this is really, Tesla has given the proof that you not only can build vehicles with the right range and efficiency and you name it, but also affordable. And yes, I know it's still too expensive for a variety of people, but prices are going down. And by the way, Tesla has attacked that they are reducing the prices, which is another ridiculous thing. But if we look back, Jan, the last year, I would say, there is again this notion of, well, we are not selling enough electric vehicles and nobody is buying them because the people don't want them. And because they don't want them, we should reconsider and, change the plan to phase out ICE vehicles and continue selling them, because, it's the consumer is king and he should decide. So, let's think about it. If Tesla wouldn't have forced, and you said this, the entire automotive industry, and they forced them by taking away a part of their market share and showing that electric vehicles are more attractive than ICE vehicles. Everybody who ever driven a BEV knows that. At least if you've driven a Tesla, you definitely know that. So,
and I own one now. I have a Model 3 Highland. I just wanted to tell you, I think you haven't heard about this, but it is actually, it is amazing. It is amazing. I had a first-hand experience. Sorry that I interrupt here and brag about my Tesla again, but it's so interesting. The shift that I felt, especially just with auto unlock when I walk towards the car. That's something, and I more and more the dominoes fall inside of my head. It's more like I'm like, wait a second. Oh yeah, the car is always on. I can always talk to the car. I always can program something. I can defrost the car in the morning and stuff like this.
Right.
Of course, it loses a little bit battery. I don't have charging infrastructure here that I can plug it in at night, but it still works. We have phantom draining. That's the thing you have to adjust in your head a little bit. Okay, that's weird at first, but it kind of makes sense because I don't want to have depreciating batteries. That's why they need to be preheated sometimes or cooled. So I rather have that than a car that's losing its reliability over the years. And it's totally crazy to witness that. And it is such a different thing than a normal car. It's not even comparable. Even if it has four wheels, it's not the same. And also when I see the reviews also of the BYD Seal, for example, which also is like the Tesla killer in Germany, it's a little bit cheaper, but as we know, that's also something I compared that Tesla is Apple. I've talked about this here before, and BYD is Android. And I can see that BYD may sell more vehicles, but maybe not in Europe, but somewhere else. I don't know. Maybe they have more in China, maybe something like this. But it's Android versus Apple kind of. And the user experience seems to be also this way. That Tesla has a way more refined infrastructure, like software infrastructure, but so yeah, product is great, and I don't get that people actually say anything that it's not a desirable thing, or it's so much worth it if you compare it, because the advantages you have is undisputed. You cannot argue against it when you experience it yourself.
So first of all, congratulations. I think it's been a great choice. I've never driven it.
You have to
drive it once.
I'm gonna drive to Munich one day, and you can test it.
So it's hard to get me out of my Model S Plaid, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I get why.
But the updated Model 3, I believe, is I've seen it, of course. It's the IAA the first time, and now on the roads all the time, or it's a supercharger. So I believe it's a fantastic car for that money. I mean, it's a fantastic value. And that's why I'm believing it's going to be a fantastic success story. And we see it already in first markets, where the Model 3 all of a sudden is again the best seller, even in front of the Model Y, which is kind of astounding. Interesting things are happening here. I totally agree with you, but obviously I'm a Tesla fanboy, as people call me. Although I'm, have also my critical lens on partly. BYD is an interesting story. I've been looking at that. I believe that in Europe right now we simply do not see that BYD is selling the volumes people are claiming they will. And we all remember Elon said that, once the Chinese are coming to Europe, it's going to be a hard time. And I think what we will see is that companies like BYD, who have been grown extremely aggressive in China, will have a harder time in Europe. And you see it here, numbers are not really going up, right? So it's not a good sign. It can have a lot of reasons. Maybe they don't ship yet enough vehicles. They just don't have enough,
ships with those export ships. They also invested heavily China in those.
I don't know. That picture may change, and I hope it will, to be honest. But I believe, and you mentioned it, in terms of performance, efficiency, price, value for money, BYD won't compete to Tesla at all. They will compete with the German automakers, in particular with VW, and they will take market share from them. And they will say, you see that BEVs don't sell in Europe, and we should go back to ICE vehicles, which is ridiculous. But we should get used to that. This is a fight of a dying industry. And this dying industry will do everything to distract consumers and everything they can. And the same is actually also true for the oil and gas industry. We shouldn't forget that this is gigantic large industry that is fighting against battery electric vehicles right now.
Yeah.
And this is happening right and left. So we will see how good or bad BYD is doing. I wish them the best. I think they have good looking cars. I've never been driven one. Maybe I will do one day, but I'm not an auto tester anyhow. This is not my business. But from what I've seen and on the cost level and everything, I don't see them really being a big competitor, but it's good to have them. And I hope that other Chinese automakers are successful in Germany and Europe too, because if they are here, we are going to have more pressure on the legacy automakers, and they hopefully over time will develop in the right direction and understand that software is key, which is something they don't understand yet. So
still,
there's a lot of pain and blood rinsing down the road to come in the future. We are not there yet, but it's gonna be bad. We are still in the beginning of the transformation. Just if you look at the numbers in terms of sales, I've been posting today a picture from KBA about how many electric vehicles are in Germany. And I think that's an interesting one because, yes, that's the one. It shows you that electric vehicles have been a growth rate in the last year. So this is 2023 to 2022 of 39%. But if you look at the full amount of ICE vehicles, which is on top here, so if you go a little bit better, more down, you see this 39%. And you also see the hybrids. It's a small number, and they're still growing. But however, and the EVs are growing quite nicely. But if you look at the entire fleet, in this picture is about the entire fleet, you see it's the ratio is still crazy. I mean, it's just 3% of the entire fleet is kind of in Germany electric, and we are far away from where we're supposed to be. So the good news is that not many, I mean, there was the sales of ICE vehicles went down last year a little bit.
Yep.
But on the other side of the coin, we also have to say that interest rates have been crazily high. People have been not, having a lot of good times financially. So there are less vehicles sold, and so therefore I'm not surprised about that this went down a little bit. So what I'm trying
also
to
that sorry, I have to step in here. Also, that our government miscalculated the COVID money that they thought they could just readjust, and then of course a big how's it called? A judge ruled actually from the Supreme Court, the German Supreme Court, that is not possible. So now they cut the incentive, they cut everything, and also the incentive for EVs, which is also a factor. I think that the sales might go down a bit, but as we can see, they kind of are very, very stable at Tesla still, or pretty good actually for such a. Of course, they declined a bit, but.
For the benefit of the audience to explain that. So in Germany, there was a reallocation from a budget that was associated to the COVID pandemic, which wasn't used. So they reallocated that went up to the highest court in Germany, which ruled that this is not legal. So the German government had to put a new budget in place. And that new budget was, 60 billion lower, I think, than the original one. So they had to cut cost by 60 billions, which is why in the last September, I think it was, they axed the BEV incentive totally zero, down to nothing. And
that was in December, 17th of December. Right? I know that pretty thoroughly because a Tesla representative called me for the Model 3 Highland that they can order that and said, we gonna still pay the incentive as a discount on top of the car this year. And then now they don't do it. A member of
mine bought a Model Y in December because of that. They still wanted to have money. And on January the 1st, you're right. But I think the decision was done before. But however.
That's true. That's true. It was September that they decided that. But then suddenly they just cut it at the 17th 17th of December. Yeah.
It was short
Or the
notice.
7th. Yeah.
Exactly. Short notice. So there was kind of a shock because we're talking about quite a lot of money here that consumers got as a return. And automakers, including Tesla, have been trying to sweeten that hard time in January by compensating that, at least partly. However, a lot of people just didn't decide then for a battery electric vehicle anymore in January and February. And then the German legacy automakers are saying, see, they don't like battery electric vehicles, and we should sell ICE vehicles
or
which
hybrids.
They prefer to sell anyway because they make a profit with that. If you look at the latest numbers that has been disclosed from VW, they have a utilization in the factories by 70%. And that's way too low to make money with their vehicles. And I'm talking about ICE and battery electric vehicles here. And they complain internally that they need to go at least to 100 or 110%. And the rule of thumb I've learned in university about factories and the automotive industry when they make money is kind of around 80%. So they need to have a production rate that is around 80% of the capacity of a factory. And right now they are at 70%. So, they have blood in their eyes and it's really painful. And there's a lot of misinformation in the market about that. And I think it's good to correct that, which gives me a lot of reason to stay on Twitter, on X, and try to inform what the heck is going on in Germany, because a lot of people are saying, Europe is not buying battery vehicles, and that's totally bullshit. It's not true.
Yeah, and that's true. And now we kind of had a huge segue around this topic a little bit, and I think so. The sentiment is that sales aren't down. The Tesla people are buying battery electric vehicle. This means the Tesla Gigafactory should be there. They should produce the $25,000 car when it's online. I think at first it will be online, maybe in Texas, then in Shanghai. They even might be there first, then in Mexico, and then in Europe. Let's see how long the protests leave there. What's your opinion on that? Because of course we have those great people that are protesting also in the forests and living in those tree houses there, the eco protesters. And as we already assume that they might produce the $25,000 car there. So what's your opinion on that?
So two things here. So Andre Theory said it quite nicely that he was asked about, in terms of the extension of Giga Berlin, is the 25K vehicle coming there? And you could read in between the lines from his answer. So he didn't answer that really, but you could read in between the lines and from how he acted that he doesn't know. So there is no decision made yet, which would be very typical, I believe. Yeah. There are information I have, which I won't disclose here, about the 25K model, which are exciting.
Please don't do it. Yeah. Please don't do it. Yeah.
No, I don't. So I have a rule, and if people ask me not to disclose information, it never comes over my lips or my fingers. So I will never disclose that. But what I can say, it's positive. And I believe, as you believe, there's no doubt that the 25K vehicle will sooner or later come to Europe. Maybe imported.
That's not a secret. That's so sensible. I mean, this is the market for this kind of vehicle category.
I mean, this is a market for smaller cars. And a lot of people here just can't afford around 20K anyway. So therefore, a 25K vehicle makes totally sense. And Elon knows that. I mean, this is clear. It's just a question of the sequence, as you said. We're first, and we know it will be first in Austin. And that makes a ton of sense because you have all the top engineers there. You have all decision makers there at one spot, and they can sort it out quickly and make sure the unbox process is working nicely, which is a requirement for the 25K vehicle. and then to expand the production to Mexico is also a good thing, because Mexico is a new build-up. You could fairly claim that Giga Berlin will be an expansion of the factory and a new build-up too. But Giga Berlin, the area is not big enough. So it's the total capacity was once around 2 million, and I think they are still trying to get there. There's still a lot of space there, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we will see. I mean, we know that the unbox process will also save a lot of space in terms of factory floor, which is a good thing. But yeah, so you have this German guy sitting in the trees and trying to avoid that. And you know what? They are demonstrating actually against the kindergarten. So think about that. In that
that's
area
true.
where they are sitting, the kindergarten is for the employees of Tesla supposed to be built. So this makes absolutely no sense at all. It's pretty ridiculous. And it gets more ridiculous if you think about it, that we are now in March, and there are regulations in Germany that you cannot cut down trees between March and September, because it would be disturbing and bad for the animals in the forest. So you can't cut down a tree anyway. So if they would have done that protest in February, I would have understood that, they've been trying to avoid making sure Tesla cannot cut anything down in February.
But
The truth is, Tesla has already cut down enough forest to start the expansion. So this is just about the kindergarten now. and that's the second big joke here. And a train station, if I'm not mistaken, for the freight trains. So a logistics center for the freight trains, and freight train transport is the best thing you can do to reduce CO2 emissions, because it will save around, if I'm not mistaken, they talked about 1,000 trucks.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not sure what time frame, if we talk a day or week or whatever. So it's a huge amount of trucks you get off the road by having this train station working, but they can't build it because they have this guy sitting in the pine trees claiming that this is bad for the environment. It's you cannot make that up. It's so ridiculous. It makes no sense. It's totally nuts. And I'm asking myself, is this people really know what they are doing? And after this arson attack from the Volcano Group, and now we are making the loop here. This group this group is called Robin Wood. I think it's UK based. I'm not sure. And they've been making the case of, well, this was a bad attack, but it doesn't have anything to do with what we do here. So they are getting under pressure now, because the society in Germany is really siding with Tesla on this arson attack. And this is important to understand for everybody in the US and outside of Germany. The society is really, have a clear opinion that this is totally unacceptable. The government, the opposition, all say the same stuff.
Even the citizens that voted against Tesla, I cannot believe that they are on this side, because they are also very conservative type people. As I could recall, that I think people who are living there for a longer time in Grünheide, in the area, they voted against that. They're not for burning down electrical infrastructure that harms them, and also the nursing home that also was connected to the grid. So totally nuts what they did. And I think also for the group itself, for this whole protest also here, it's a net negative and a net positive for Tesla. Sorry that I interrupt as much, because what we can see here also on the picture here, which is pretty interesting, is this Antifa flag, and also the Volcano Group is also at least adjusted, or they claim to be Antifa as well. So this is not a good sign, or a good look for them. And what maybe you can tell the audience how the general public liked the climate activists that glued themselves to the pavement here in Europe. because I think that's
I mean, it's the same
similar view.
movement. You're right, same movement to a certain extent. So we have here in Germany, these protesters, they call themselves Last Generation, if I'm not mistaken. And
also from the UK, they're also very active there and all over Europe,
Right.
and they have divisions, but yeah.
Right. And their cause is not a bad one. I mean, they are trying to create attention on the climate disaster we are in. And if you know me, you know that I'm, drumming all day long about we should wake up and open our eyes about the problems we have and how fast everything is going and how disastrous and you name it. And I feel it in my property too. So it's really bad. And it's getting worse. So their cause is good, but their activities have been, for instance, going to museum and throwing paint on a picture from some important painters to create media attention. They luckily used, I think, paint that is not harmful, but still you can question what kind of impact it really has. And then they've been gluing themselves on streets, on lights, on crosses, so that trucks and other people, ordinary people trying to drive to work, can't pass anymore. So with their hands, gluing them, which was always a challenge for the police to get them off. So long story short, I understand the motivation. I don't think that the way how they try to attract attention is creating what they are looking for, and that they really move the needle here. That's I believe not the right approach. And and they're meddling everything together. I've been once on one of the demonstrations, and you see flags about all and everything. And if you look at the pictures from the pine forest of Giga Berlin, there are flags of Palestine there. And
so not shown here, but
you ask yourself, okay, fine, let's talk about the war in Gaza Strip and Hamas and all of that, but that's a different topic. What the heck has this to do with battery electric vehicles? So I really think they make a lot of stupid mistakes in bringing attention to about the environment. And again, these guys on the top of these tree houses, they can sit there until September if they like, the whole summer through, and have a good time in the pine forest because Tesla doesn't care. It's totally unimportant for them. So they can build their camp there. And there is a big, blowback from the activities this Volcano Group has done, because there's already a discussion about, for security and safety reasons, to eliminate this group from the forest. And I would totally support that, because this is a left-wing group. They are probably not dangerous like Volcano Group. Robin Wood is not known, as far as I know, to do anything criminal. But it's still a left-wing group, and they can be, infiltrated by other people too. And why should you allow something like that so close from Giga Berlin? I mean, let's talk about what will happen now. All industry infrastructure environments will be protected better. There's already a law in discussion for a longer time that hopefully will be approved very soon, that is a law that mandates owners of factories to take care of the critical infrastructure more than before. And that has, of course, a huge impact also on the electricity lines throughout Germany too, and the transformators and you name it. You can claim, okay, why don't they do it already? Well, because it's costly. It costs a lot of money, and people just don't do something unless there's really a strong reason for that. Now they have that reason. And it won't be possible to protect all and everything, but at least you can try to do it. And they also can, even if they just put cameras somewhere, surveillance cameras, to make sure they have proof if something is happening, would help here. So I think there's a lot of effort for the entire automotive industry and the entire industry in Germany now to make sure they protect the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that will cost a lot of money, but it's needed for a variety of reasons. And again, this is a wake up call that happened here with Volcano Group. And I hope that the right measures are taken out of that, because again, I will repeat myself, this is not the first time the group has done it. They've been doing it before. Nobody talked about it. There was no media reporting about it really, big time. And I think that was a mistake. And now I hope that everybody's waking up to counter that to make sure that this is not happening again.
So is your view that this will be in the long run even a net positive for Tesla, in that sense that let's say the sentiment of the public shifts now towards a more positive image of Tesla, in the sense that you would say we are against these kinds of groups and leave Tesla alone in that sense, and kind of go into the camp of Tesla more? Do you think this will
absolutely
happen?
I think it's a net positive for Tesla, as bad as it sounds. So because a large portion of the society will now hopefully inform themselves a little bit better, and Tesla has also done a little bit to clarify the myth out here. There's still demonstrations going on. So there's a planned demonstration from this citizen group in Grünheide, together with these guys in the forest, and they tried to demonstrate together, I don't know, this weekend or so. So we will see new pictures, and we will see media reports about, that was a bad attack from the Volcano Group. We are not supporting that. We are against it. But still, Tesla shouldn't use that much water. So, but overall, I believe the sentiment is shifting in favor of Tesla a little bit, at least, and every little bit is appreciated and helpful. So there's a net negative, and I think that less people will support attacking Tesla, which doesn't mean that we will see a lower amount of negative articles about Tesla in the news. This will continue. We should get used to it. It's just,
it drives clicks,
It drives clicks, it drives money. And even now, this Arson attack, there was an article in Bild, which I didn't read fully, but what I've seen from extracts is unbelievable. I think the Bild newspaper in that article is almost supporting terrorist attacks from the left wing. It's mind-boggling. So, but I mean, I'm not reading Bild anyway, and they've been smearing Tesla for decades now. So who cares what they are writing? Unfortunately, a lot of people are reading it still, but this is unacceptable and there should be really going someone after that, because I'm not talking about not allowing them to write that, but at least there should be
clarifying. Okay,
yes.
Bild also has very much a track record of kind of skewing reality a little bit in favor of industries or the sponsors, kind of because it's a private owned news outlet. So there is a lot of monetary incentive behind that as well. It's this like a smear or rainbow press in the UK, comparable to that people know that what Bild actually is. It's not the first source for great information. You wouldn't read Bild. It's more entertainment mixed with news. It's a strange thing where
I think we shouldn't put too much spotlight on it, because it's just one newspaper here. But as you said, I think it will be net positive for Tesla. I believe there will be more support for Grünheide now than before. It will change Germany. Let's make no mistake here. This is a watershed moment for Germany. It will change Germany in the way they look at their critical infrastructure, and in the way how vulnerable our society and our industry is. We won't be able to fix and secure all and everything, but I'm happy to see the conversation, the discussion right now, and I'm really, really hoping that there are actions coming out of that, and that they are not after a few weeks stop discussing that, and then we have in a few months something which is worse, and people are dying or injured. Because that would be also typical behavior for a lot of politicians. Once this is out of the media, nobody talks about this anymore. This should stay there. And we haven't discussed the damage on the Tesla side. There is a discussion. First reaction from Andre Turek was that this is in the high 9 digits. So we are talking almost $1 billion of euros, obviously. Now there's information, it's more around 500 million as it looks like. I don't know, we will see in terms of the vehicles productions, obviously 2 weeks where the factory is not producing, which adds up to at least 12,000 vehicles that are not produced. And so the stock market is jumping on that like, oh, this is bad and Tesla will, not sell well in Europe. I believe they will sell a lot of inventory cars that are still out here. So that mitigates the overall risk. But yeah, Q1 is not good because we had before 2 weeks downtime because of the terrorist attacks in the Red Sea. So because the supply chain was interrupted. Now we have terrorist attacks in Germany, another 2 weeks downtime. It's unfortunate, but it has nothing at all to do with the demand for Tesla vehicles in Europe or in Germany. It's bad and it's going to cost Tesla a lot of money. But it is as it is, and the company will survive and prosper and grow from here.
Yeah, I also think it was interesting also that Andre Turek was interviewed from the factory. Also before that, he hinted also at what's happening. That they are working on the battery infrastructure as well. That they produce batteries there, which is also a huge thing. Which is also, again, a net positive for sustainable energy, because then we have storage again, or electric vehicles. Battery production in Germany is a big important thing to stabilize the grid, to get rid of all those fossil fuels and as well. But you're right. I also think, especially from the politics side, which they already have much support there in the region, but I also think since there are also elections there, and that's also a very critical point, because the government or the people or the person that was in charge of Grünheide, who was voted there, the governor of Grünheide was very in favor of Tesla moving there. He did a great job getting Tesla there, away from Berlin actually to Grünheide, which is a big move, because Elon was so determined to open this up in Berlin, actually in the region of Berlin. Now it's in Brandenburg. But I think that's also one thing, because those kind of terrorist attacks, arson attacks, isn't viewed positively from any politician, I would say. So I think they will have more and more support for that they kind of solve this issue now, because now it's a internal security issue of Germany. And this means that a lot of muscle will be flexed now to show the world that we can deal with terrorist groups that burn our infrastructure down. So this isn't now about Tesla in that sense. That's my opinion on that. For the end of the episode, I think it makes sense to kind of look at that. And how do you think, how much cost will this have on Tesla? Because they kind of lose now this 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Well, you have definitely, as I indicated before, the not sold and not produced vehicles. That's number one. But if we look at the factory, I expect a lot of damage on the machinery. And I'm not only talking on the casting. So they've been luckily being able, as far as I understand, to get the melted aluminum out of the furnace fast enough. Yeah,
now I get
just think about that. I mean, that alone is crazy. So they've been able to do that, but all the molds are all damaged, I guess, and they cost millions. So a mold for
that's true, because in the process they have to cool down at the right time. That's very fragile. They have to run to of course.
You can throw them away. They are just. That's my guess. Speculation. I'm not in that industry, so maybe I'm wrong. But that's just my read here. So this will cost many millions, as all the molds and the machinery is going to be damaged. Maybe the furnaces needs to be a replacement. If they've been planning well, and I believe Tesla is known for doing that, they have spare parts. And are able to reconstruct everything within this 2 weeks. That's a plan. But also think about the stamping. You've seen the stamping machine. Imagine the stamping machine has to stop in the middle of the process. You have again damaged molds, which you can throw away, which cost millions. And then the entire production line was stopped all of a sudden, which is not a big problem because it happened all the time. But I see a variety of damages on the machinery in the factory that will cost many, many, many millions. Then you have additional costs because you have to send the people home. You have to plan everything new. First of all, you are standing in front of a situation you haven't seen before. So what do? You have downtime, you have the damaged machinery. First of all, you need to plan how to do the stuff, and that costs time again. So there's a lot of additional labor cost also on the supplier side.
Yeah,
obviously.
that's true.
Right? So you have the material incoming that you logistically have planned to put into production. So what the heck are you now doing with all the trucks full of materials that are coming in? So do you have enough warehouse capacity to store it or not? The complexity here is immense. People just underestimate what it means to have such a production running. So you're going to have a lot of costs on the supplier side. You probably have to compensate them partly for the damage on their side too. So this is much bigger than people anticipate. We had today an article from the so-called German Autopub Studenhofer out there who was saying that the costs are way lower than Tesla anticipates. I believe Studenhofer have no clue. I don't understand why he's called an expert in production, really. I mean, that makes no sense what he said. He was calculating kind of only the missing production of vehicles. and
that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
That doesn't make sense at all for me. If it's $1 billion, I have no clue. I don't know how much it's gonna be, obviously, but it's bigger than most people anticipate because the complexity of running such a factory is big. And you show here the pictures of the fly-through, which again is only the factory. But to run a factory, you have an ecosystem of suppliers working like ants, bring the material in and out. And this is a fine timed clock working.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
There's a lot of damage if you interrupt it just like that. And we are talking about the interruption of the entire production line with all and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's 500 million. Why not? I mean, possible.
Okay, yeah, let's see how much they have to change. I would assume that they have backup power or something, but I think if you have such a power draw, maybe that's not realistic to have like such a big backup power that can run the factory for 1 hour even. I think that the power draw will be immense.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was thinking about that. I mean, so Tesla is 100% getting the electricity from outside, obviously, in contrast to VW in Wolfsburg, which have their own gas turbines lately, by the way, refitted from coal to gas, just as a side note about CO2 emissions of German automakers. So you could claim that this can't happen to VW at least, which is probably at least partly true. Yes, I mean, could Tesla have their own electricity generation? Sure, they could if they wanted to, But why would you? The reason why Giga Berlin is in Brandenburg is because you have a lot of wind there and you have a lot electricity generation from windmills. That is one of the reasons why the team decided for Brandenburg. So why should you want to kind of create your own electricity? You can't do it with solar panels. There's a ton of solar panels on the roof already, but this is not enough to run the entire factory.
And people have to know that Germany is kind of gray most of the time. We have enough. Solar is still good for Germany and net positive, of course, but still not as effective as in Texas, of course, where the sun is shining way more.
And, Lower Saxony, which is another state almost on the same altitude here, like Brandenburg, had in the last year their electricity generation 100% by renewables, so wind and solar. So that shows you that this is possible, right? Yeah. So Brandenburg is producing a surplus plus on electricity that is exported out of Brandenburg. But perfect, here it comes. Most US people just don't understand that the electricity net in Europe is vastly, completely different from that what you see in the US, which, by the way, leads to a situation that we do not have blackouts here. I don't even remember ever.
That's true. That's true.
That is. I think the last blackout I remember was in '78. Seriously. Okay. So, why is that? Because over the years, the European Union decided that in order to stabilize the grids, it's better to connect the grids of all countries together and make sure that there's a transfer of electricity for countries that are producing, for whatever reasons, a surplus, and the other way around. Which means that electricity is traded every millisecond throughout all of Europe. So if a lot of wind is blowing in a certain part of Europe, a lot of electricity is produced that is cheaper than nuclear or coal generation and exported into other countries. They buy it because it's cheaper, because this country has a surplus. And this is happening all the time back and forth. So that is a success story, which has led to a situation that we do not need that much batteries or electricity storage situations. We still need it, so we still have the coal peak power plants here everywhere, which are extremely expensive. I hope we can get rid of them, or gas peak power plants. But the overall situation is much more balanced simply because of the size of Europe and the renewable energies that have been built up over time. I still believe we need a lot of batteries here and industrial size storage, because it would help to overcome that what you called that there are phases in Europe where we do not have a lot of sun. The wind is not blowing as we want it to. So how to overcome these situations, and storage is required for that. It doesn't need to be just batteries. So there are other approaches how you can fix that. Unfortunately, I do not see enough conversation about that in Europe. So there should be done way more around that. And it's way cheaper than investing in, for instance, nuclear, which a lot of people believe is solves
Holy
it all.
Grail,
It doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's interesting. And with Tesla wanting to produce batteries there, of course, for the cars, it makes sense but think about it. It's interesting that in the interview they talked about the batteries there, because like he also talked about this. I still want to get into this, because then why is Giga Berlin so important as well? And the expansion is important, because when Tesla produces more batteries, or any batteries there, or on the whole, he said clearly that a goal would be to produce all the whole battery here. But for now, it's part of the they kind of supply those parts or to the other factories as well of Tesla, but it makes sense to do that, because if you think about the $25,000 car that you want to produce in the millions, then you have maybe think about having that in-house, especially when you want to cut costs. So I think that's the first step actually of getting to the $25,000 car.
Right.
And battery production. Yeah.
And, you know, there's a pre-production. We do not know if it's on cell level or before.
Yeah.
Component level, I guess, is probably rather on component level right now. And as far as we know, this are transferred to the US. Not sure, but Fremont
exactly.
or Austin or you name it. And why is that? Because you get crazy incentives in the US for battery production, which you do not have in Europe. So that is one of the main trigger here. But it will happen. As Andre said, there's no doubt about it. We will have a battery production, full battery production in Giga Berlin. And we're probably going to have a mega factory in Europe too. So there's this chatter about Italy. I believe there's probably conversations with a couple of countries. I can't wait for the announcement. We know that now a mega factory is being built in Shanghai, but the same is going to happen in Europe. It won't happen in Berlin, in Giga Berlin, because you need more space, and that is not the case there. Given the latest developments and all the protests and all the red tape we have had here in Europe, in Germany in particular, I would guess that this is now higher on the list of the team that is looking for the right location. If you think about that, you probably will exclude a lot of countries already, which you know have all these challenges. One of them is, for instance, France. But Italy, I don't know. North Italy, maybe. But, you know, there's so many factors you need to look at if you decide for a production site of megapacks that I'm not sure how far they are in their decision-making process. I hope it happens soon because it's really required. And there's a demand for megapacks here in Europe, obviously. Not a small demand, there's a big demand. So we will see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good to know where the trajectory is heading. I think it's important to also discuss that. But I think the time is limited here, and I think we've talked about this topic of those eco-protesters or terrorists as well. So or mixed together, lumped together, and I think it's a good thing, net positive, like we've discussed before, that Tesla will come out here as the winner. In that sense, also that it's a wake-up call for Germany, and I also think that the sentiment will change towards maybe, getting more and more people to look into Tesla and then figuring out, wait a second, they are pretty much a net positive. What's happening here? They build out the infrastructure and everything, so that's a good thing. Yeah. So Alex, maybe for the end of the episode, you want to kind of tell something to the audience, or what you're working on, or what people should check out, and also for the people.
I'm working on my thumb. I'm working on my thumb. I cut it with an axe, through the bone. And no, I'm joking. I mean, I'm not joking. It really happened, but it's stupid that it happened, and it's fine. So I'm doing well here. I'm working on this and that. So I probably told you that I have a property in the Baltic Sea, which was damaged heavily by the last storms we had, bad weather, climate change. And all of that. So I had to do a lot of repair work. I've been there lately, and now back in Munich here, and doing the ordinary thing. So I'm trying to, as some people said on X, be a source of reason, and that's my intention. It's not always easy because there's a lot of misinformation out on X. Let's make this clear. But there's also a long story what needs to be told and what needs to be clarified, and this is kind of my mission. So I'm writing articles here and there from time to time, and happy to be here on your platform or other platforms where I'm invited from time to time to share my thoughts and my modest thinking about where all of this is heading to. Obviously, thinking a lot about Tesla and the auto industry, but also climate change and where we are heading, where we are standing, what are the challenges and all of this. I think a lot of people are lost at the moment. There are a lot of geopolitical issues with wars and with, inflation and a lot of problems with elections and politics in certain parts of the world, which are creating partly a negative sentiment. And I think we shouldn't be negative. I'm really with Elon here. I believe we have a bright future in front of us. I'm totally excited about what the Tesla full self-driving is very likely coming over to Europe, as it looks like. Actually, I think it's coming, so it's clear that it will come. I'm very excited about the humanoid robots and what AI will bring us in the future. And I see that despite all the challenges we have in the world, there's a fantastic reason or a big reason to be so happy about being here and being able to help to change all of that in the positive direction. And we should always, make sure the negativity we hear every day is not capturing us, but we see the bigger picture where we are heading to. If we just look 10 years back where we've been, it's been so, behind compared to today. And the same will be in 10 or 20 years. So I'm very positive about the future and where we are going.
Yeah, that's a great words of positivity here for the end. Maybe for the audience, you can write down, should Tesla move away from Germany? Something like that we've heard. I think still it's a very important place to be in for vehicle production, despite leftist groups burning down infrastructure. But I also think it's going to be also a problem, not just in Germany, that's a problem everywhere around Europe. Yeah. Those divisions we are facing. Also, you kind of made a big point here as well, that there are interests to split up the society from left and right everywhere. This could be Russia or Saudi Arabia, whatever, or China, or the US as well. So there are so many things geopolitical going on that's sometimes hard to track. And I think it's important to focus on the core and come together more and look at the positives. And I think you're right. So please also write it down below in the comments if you have a question to Alex or me, so we can view that. So Alex, thank you very much for being on. And for the audience, of course, there's only one last thing to say, and that's goodbye, everybody.
Wasn't this episode awesome? Let's accelerate the pace of innovation by subscribing to TeslaFix. It is my absolute favorite channel on the whole interwebs.